I'm your body. I am Jen Healy. I'm your body today. Hi, everybody.
So we're just going to play and see what's happening with Jen's body. So Jen, let's start with your hips in the swing.
Okay. Do you care which direction I get in? Do you like the knees?
Let your body decide kind of what feels right. Orientation.
What about the yellow one? Where would you like the yellow one?
Well, right now, let's just leave the yellow one right there. So like lots of cushiony fabric.
Just take
Yeah, okay. So we're just going to work with opening up the pelvis and the hips. So let's just arrive on the table.
Can I bring the legs up?
Yes.
Yeah, just play.
And just start to kind of do a few pelvic rolls, a couple of leg circles, just opening up, going nice and slow. What I love about the working with the hips like this is that it allows for lots of lubrication. This whole area is so compressed from sitting. So it's nice to really take your time and just open up those areas that get so compressed, like the sacrum and SI joint. And of course, adding breath. I'm just going to add a little touch. Support, and then go a little further. Sometimes feeling the support, right, helps us to feel ourselves deeper. And also helps us to go a little deeper. I felt like a little hook there, yeah. Of course, Jen, you're so flexible. Your body is really...
I happen to be the founder of these swings. So
Yes.
I have a few hours, 14,000 hours in the swing.
So I'm just going to add a little traction because we know that opening up some space in the joints
That feels good.
really, really is restorative. Ah. Little oscillation. These hip flexors often get very tight. But again, Jen's body is pretty,
Yeah, this is a tight part of my body, you know, and what we can do. I know.
Oh, look
just
at that.
Natural taking over person, but
no, but this is good because what you're doing is listening to the body and
Yeah.
what the body wants to do. So
the quad hip flexor combination, I find that this is one of the best poses to really not only get into the psoas and quad, but the connective tissue through the groin that gets super tight. So just even doing this position, and when we switch up, I'll do all kinds of hands-on stuff with you
okay.
in inspiration from what you're doing with the spirals. So.
And another one down.
That feels really good.
Really, with the swings.
I know.
This is so great because you can really.
And she's giving me a new hairstyle. It's the volumizer for the back of the head.
Oh, there you go. This looks really great and really nice and loose. Yeah. And again, listening to your body, any little micro movements, any little spirals. The body likes to restore through spirals and weavings and rhizomatic movements, not linear movements. It likes to find things like we see in nature, entanglements and these flights into new territory. This is gorgeous. Just show that again. Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, I'm spinning the spine in the other direction.
So like this is very hard to get without a swing. It's just
impossible.
Impossible, right? No, it's true. It's like
even in Cirque du Soleil, they couldn't hold us without a swing.
you couldn't even get this in yoga. This requires
And the support at the
a
same time.
three-dimensional kind of multi-dimensional movement. And you know, Emily was all about that. She was like, what else? What else? What else can the body do? What else can we find in our movement?
And tracing the circles,
So
that's
these
really
things,
helpful.
yeah, so like it's interesting when we stay with these organic natural movements, the body just starts to unfold. It just starts to do its thing, you know? And this could probably go on for quite a while, right, Jen?
And it feels so good. It's so relaxing and supportive and kind of effortless as we just let the body unwind.
And how is it when I come in from below and support your body to go even?
Yeah, what would feel good actually is to feel like the hips pulling away.
Down. Let me try that.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually guess. I love using the slings.
Yeah. You can actually do it just by getting on the table and pulling
the
swing away.
That's great.
And that's a great way because you can just lean back with your body weight and it becomes effortless for you. Yeah, that feels great. And just kind of allowing a little bit of active release through the hips just to get that.
And that actually feels good on my body too.
That's
kind of like there's a tensegrity in my own body that's being heightened by this movement.
And you can stay there and you can do the same movement, keep pulling, and I'm gonna straighten my legs. As long as you love your partner, you can pull with straight legs away, and that's a different experience than bent knees to get the length through the iliac crest. And then I'm gonna come back around.
Beautiful.
Just pushing and pulling, and the space changes everything.
And everything is dynamic. That's what I like. Like it's dynamic, it's alive, it's moving, it's kinetic. Body loves to actually move that way.
And even in this position, that feels good on the sacrum, but then you can also come in front and just give the feet a little traction towards the windows. And that'll be a different experience, like from the heels. Or yeah, that's good too. Just a little bit.
And again, I'm using my body in a dynamic way, partnering with her body. So it's like a partner kind of movement.
Deepening the stretch.
And my knees are soft and I'm kind of also in my own little.
And that feels like good enough. Just raise this back down when it feels ready. There we go. And then it just can kind of organically come into more of a shoulder stand with the legs straight up in the air from plow. And then it feels good to do the neck the other way. So I think actually the yellow one.
I was just going to say, that yellow one looks like it wants to come up. There you go.
Yeah.
See how it organically unfolds.
Especially because Barbara has all these amazing pieces mixed and matched, so we have so much to play with. We actually have the leg loops. You can use both leg loops together as a second swing, and that adds for a lot of variety. And then this yellow leg loop is being used to help traction the neck.
This is gorgeous. Now, I love this too, and I use this a lot sometimes with clients.
So you could do the same thing here, like we do with the hips, where you can just gently pull this back. And and then I can just kind of relax into the lower body just by rocking the pelvis, the sacral, cranial sacral connection. They're communicating with one another.
So gorgeous.
Yeah, and I'm actually, because I like to do this stuff with the vagus nerve quite a bit, I'm letting my eyes, with my eyes closed, trace the back and forth.
Right.
And that rebalances the brain. And it starts to have communication between the left and right brain. And because I do this a lot, my body naturally does that, but those tiny little cues and refinements, that feels amazing, by the way. Really help. And then I can participate just by nodding very gently as she pulls so that I'm getting deeper into the occiput. Yeah, like that. And that feels amazing. But I'm always thinking let's create a millimeter of space
Mm.
in between the vertebrae. We're not pulling so hard that the body will contract and tense against it, but just imagine a millimeter of space in between each vertebrae, how big that would be for the whole spine, right?
You know, space is alive. Space is not empty. Space has memory. Space has nutritive fluids
And charge.
and charge.
Mm-hmm.
So like a millimeter of space can be very healing in a compressed.
Right, where an
Area.
inch would be traumatic. We don't want to create so much space that the body has to contract against the pull. It's just right. That's a great stretch too. Mm-hmm. And my arms just feel like going wide now. And then I'm going to do a little no from side to side.
Right.
And what I like to do with that is then you can pull the opposite direction.
Right.
If you want to try that, or yeah, just enough. That's perfect. And so what I'm doing is I'm tractioning the scalenes and the sides of the neck muscles that get so super tight.
And I'll do that
Yeah.
as well.
And that could be 5 minutes in this position, or it could just be quick, 30 seconds, but then I help do the fascia work where I'm letting the fabric, which is like a second skin,
Yeah.
traction, which is very special, that it's this cotton-like blend that is soft on the tissue.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very different than a foam roller, wouldn't you say, Jen? It's like,
It feels very different than everything.
Yeah,
I don't recommend polyester, nylon, parachute, or synthetic on the skin.
Yeah.
And this is wrapping around. It's like 3D fascia work, because when you're using a foam roller or anything that's doing points, the fascia is growing in a spiral, like a tree spirals, and it will trace the line in the shape of which it grows, which is totally a different release than the linear line that you get when you're using foam rollers and stuff. So it's just a much deeper experience and very relieving that way. I find it to be more painful for people to use the rollers on the lines because it's not going with the grain of the tissue. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Let me give you a little traction here so
Great.
you can take it right up into the neck again.
Oh, good.
There you go.
Yeah, and
That
could
looks
be
great.
like
That feels
teamwork. Yeah, where I call it yoga massage, where we're helping the body open and stretch. And I like curling in, chin to chest, and then pulling and arching just in the upper body. Lots of hair.
And then I was thinking, like, after all of this dynamism, you might just want to spread out or fan out the yellow,
Unit.
sling and go into a little bit of a restorative pose here. Around the ears, around the,
I like the idea of going around. You have to get it entangled first, but just going
okay?
in like a cocoon.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so we call it cocooning when we spread the fabric out and we kind of rest in it. And I actually like it where my head's on the table instead of, because I don't like my chin into my chest for too long. It's okay, but I like working with the table. It allows me to elongate.
But notice how that makes you feel held, right, Jen? There's a feeling of being held and embraced. I'm just gonna turn that down.
Yeah, turn that down a smidge. And the same with the leg loops, they can spread out.
So what I love about your swing, Jen, is the way that it does just really hold the tissue. There's a real sense of being wrapped and held.
Which they've done tons of research around the amazing benefit of that feeling of being held and hugged and wrapped with pressure on the skin for the nervous system and the immune system, and how it rebalances the happy hormones or the calming hormones.
Right.
And and the pressure on the skin itself releases what I call the surface charge,
Right.
which is interfacing with the emotional body.
And I'm just gonna add
Mhm.
a little bit of a contact here on the sacrum. How does that feel?
Good.
Some
Actually,
added touch.
yeah, it feels good to lift the sacrum and then drop the sacrum.
Drop the sacrum.
And then feel the mobility of the pelvis.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I can feel it articulating vertebra by vertebra.
Yeah, and feeling any parts that might feel a little sticky and stuck. You know, there's like the 6 holes within the sacral plate, and your light touch is perfect for releasing those. Doesn't take much to help.
Trying something.
Yeah.
Just playing.
Yeah.
What's this like?
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, that moves me more into the plow position. I call it. Sometimes bending the knees will just happen naturally. The hips might slip out, but that's okay too.
Nice little articulation here. Tensegrity.
Beautiful. Yeah, anything where we're rocking the pelvis is going to really release that buildup of tension from all the linear movements and the kind of stuckness that happens from sitting and driving and computering.
Oops. Oh, she popped out.
No, I wanted to. I lifted my hips. It just
But even just this, right?
Yeah.
This is another
Transition.
restorative kind of pose. I mean, this is so what's amazing about
yeah,
this swing is it has so many
yeah.
versatile movements.
And what we're doing is we're playing with how to blend some of the continuum work that Barbara does with the swing therapeutics, and doing that on the table is different than actually doing it in the air. So that's what we're playing with today.
Right.
And so we're just making it up as we go along, and we're gonna switch in just a moment.
So Jen, just out of curiosity, what do you think the table adds to the continuum versus in the air?
So come over here a little bit too.
Yeah.
What I love about the table right now, well, I do table work as well, and what I'm loving about it is how soft it is as opposed to working on the ground.
Exactly.
I love how stable and secure it is for people who are new to the swing and are like, oh God, I can't do that. But it being low and suspended over the table where you don't, like, you're being held by so many components, so many
That's right.
points. I call them hooks. You know, we have so many hooks in places to hold that it feels completely safe, but it also allows for ease of the practitioner to do hands-on. So it can combine the yoga massage and the body work very easily with the table and the tractioning. And I just love the push and pull. With the when a practitioner has good ergonomics, which means their body is happy, it translates into the energy that's being transmitted to the client. So working on the table really helps the practitioner be really present. I love working on the floor sometimes too when that's appropriate, but the table is giving more of that therapeutic feel, where when I work on the floor it feels more like Thai massage feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'd love for Barbara to do the same thing, and we're going to go over it one more time because I always get very excited about the different ideas that pop through.
Right.
And I've been really focused on the spiral dynamics in the AYRx Therapeutix, the intermediate training. So we're going to do all the spiral dynamics in the swing and just add on to what Barbara was saying. So even this position feels amazing.
Gorgeous.
Just a leg wrap with just a
Yeah.
tiny bit of traction. And I can do the same thing where I'm
Yeah.
tractioning away. So now the swing is behind my heart, allowing me to arch a little bit more, and then just
that looks
playing.
great.
Yeah, and it just kind of happened,
Yeah.
right?
This is what I'm talking about, the part that I think is so exciting for me, that the body will start to unfold. The body will start to kind of find
Communicate.
its own creative ways to find release. And it just happens.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful.
Body intelligence is a thing, you know? So
Yeah.
we work with the hollow spheres, which is like the head brain, the heart brain, and the belly brain. And this is, in a lot of ways, it's helping the belly brain, the body brain, which is in every cell really, to be able to express itself And that's why my initial program, AerialYogaPlay, is so important to understand that the play is the exploration. It's giving your body an opportunity to explore and experience itself in a new way. So that is the most important part, and that play is very therapeutic.
I just want to add one thing about this area right here, the belly brain.
Mhm.
It is our microbiome. It is our, our complement of microbes that make up our microbiome and that are coding our own genes. And this is like 25 feet of soft tissue with fluids. So it really responds so nicely to movement.
These
And
water movements.
These water
Yeah.
movements, and very hard to get in standing position or sitting position. And what I love about the swing is we can add a little bit of flow with gravity. Gravity increases flow and reverse flow.
That's right.
And for the microbiome, that reverse flow is like a reverse osmosis. Everything is mixing and, entangling, and the bacteria are communicating through quorum sensing, cell-to-cell communication. Yeah, and you can add a hum to that, like a
the sound and the vibration. Yeah, because the water is actually conductivity. So
It's
the
charge.
fluid
Yeah,
is holding the charge, and that is what really creates the vitality of the body, is the energetic system that's mixed in with all of that yummy chemistry.
so I love that about the swing. It really offers me a way to move my core
The undulations.
in the fluidity of the fluids that make up its composition.
Yes.
So
we're
very exciting.
Yeah, we're constantly pulsing in the swing, and that rhythm wave or that undulation allows for communication, not only cell to cell or intercellular communication, but with the microbiome, with the gut health, with all the other mitochondria levels.
So you've got cellular, extracellular, lymph, interstitial, interstitium.
Interstitiality.
It's all of the interior spaces that are very hard to get to when we're compressed.
Very nice. So you're gonna hop in.
I'm gonna hop in, and I can't wait.
I know. I'm so
salivating.
Excited. Yeah. So I would love for you to start how I finished, which is the yellow swing under the hips spread out.
Okay.
And the blue one at the ankles with just this rocking, kind of like the chi machine.
Okay.
And this just feels so delicious.
Yeah,
and
of course.
from that, I'm gonna do some, chatting and stretching.
Okay.
Whatever. But I just want you to feel that as we begin here.
All right. So I'm going to put the yellow sling sort of at the rim of my pelvis, and then I'm going to put the blue sling. I have two here, so I'm going to put down here, and I'm just going to. Oh, that feels so good. Just that alone.
I want you to spread this out and try it. It's okay to do it that way, but we're going to spread out the yellow one over your bum.
Yeah, okay.
Just that holding feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And the
It was nice the other way too, but this feels good as well.
Yeah, experiment.
I think it's important to explore.
Try it. And try both ways in every pose, spread out and bunched.
Right.
So I'm wondering why this one wasn't used. Is there a reason? Did you just want the lower?
I can put it in there. I mean,
Yeah,
sure.
just under the ankles. Let that one be spread out.
Under my knees, or even spread out, and then that one under.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Now
love
you're a
that.
little higher, and it's a different motion.
That
right?
feels great.
Yeah.
Support. I just want to say, support is so. For my body, it lets go with support. So even an extra sling under the ankles
Feels really good.
was the support my legs needed to.
Yeah, and for me, I was gonna hold on to that one and just give a little bit of a rock and that is why I was like, oh, it's above now. So what would happen if we use that to actually help to traction? Because it's bunched up, so it allows me to pull. How does that feel with the pull?
It feels great. I feel that traction actually right on my sacrum.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying earlier, just that little 1 millimeter
Oh, yeah.
of space feels like extra information coming into my body.
That allows for the lubrication to happen, because what happens is in that space we get the rush of blood and oxygen and more flow into these areas that might have been really stuck. And I find if we try to pull too hard or create too much space, like I was saying, the body will pull against that, and that might not actually be most effective. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let her just do some intuitive movements. You know, sometimes I let people be relaxed, and other times I'm going to have them hold on. Yeah, because then we can do that. Yeah, because we can get a better grip that way. Yeah. So we're doing a little wrist lock. And depending on the person, I might do a little faster shimmy like this, or I might go really slow. But her nervous system, for whatever reason I'm feeling, is this. And that just happens when I come in contact with someone, is I might respond differently, as well as pulse, right?
It's interesting, Jen. I actually like the combination of the fast with them moving into the slow.
Yeah.
It's like my body likes both. It's information, different information coming into my nervous system.
That's right. It allows your system to kind of settle in, like the little shake and then deep.
Yeah. So you can think like each bit of information is like a different nutrient that my body likes. And my body likes a touch. My body definitely likes touch. Especially now, it's like in these times where touch is just such a commodity.
Yeah.
And wow, it feels so good.
So I would love for you to start to transition the yellow one up to the neck. Okay, you can leave the legs either bunched out or together, but the yellow one's going to make it to the heart, nice and slow.
Into my heart
center. So bunch it up at the hips and then go to the heart and feel each one.
I'm going to put my shoulders in.
There you go.
There's something about wanting to have my shoulders held too.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels so good.
Yeah. And again, I don't have to do like a whole lot when I'm working with people, but in this position, what's really nice is just to help deepen the hip flexors. So I can come in and do a little
that
bit of
feels so great.
hug here, because this part of the body really likes length. And not too much. You know, I just like to remind the hip flexors, like, oh, you can even go deeper there. This creates a little bit more of a natural arch for the iliac crest, so the tailbone can drop down. And these are things that just get stuck, that we don't even realize is stuck. And then the other thing is, if my person likes to participate, they can get inspired by that movement and start to use their own hands to press the hip flexors down and to feel that. If they want to be more active, they can stay in the chill mode as well if they're loving it. So what do you notice here? How's that feeling for you?
Well, I noticed as soon as you wrapped the shoulders in the band, there was a feeling of letting go of a surface charge that we talked about. You know, I think we don't even realize how much our hearts are guarded, and so it just felt the support of the swing just helped me to release that surface charge, and I'm feeling much more in my heart right now.
Much more dropped in.
You can see it, right?
Oh yeah, the body gets into like this deep 0 point state where the nervous system calms. And that happens by simply wrapping or hugging the skin with a surface that feels really inviting, that feels really
And now
nurturing.
the feeling is wanting to go up and include my head. So I'm going to try that. Just gonna take this out for a second.
Yeah, there you go.
And oh wow, that feels really good. So now there's a sense of
And I
my
want you to
head being held.
That's it. Yeah.
And this feels really, really like there's support for my head. So my head can actually move in ways that it couldn't move if it wasn't supported. It's a dynamic movement. I don't know if you can see that. Look at this. This is like such a dynamic movement that's very hard to get.
That's right.
But it feels so good and just little micro movements.
Yeah, because the tension of the fabric is actually helping to strengthen the cervical spine. Since everyone's kind of moving forward or head forward, looking down, that movement of pushing the back of the head into something that creates a little bit of tension will also strengthen the neck.
It's like a creative opposition. Look at that. It feels so good. You're right. We spend so much time looking down at our screens or our phones. So this movement of moving back, it even wants to go further.
And with it spread out, she can kind of get into her creative flow, but when she bunches it up, I'm going to do those stretches for her, just when she's ready.
Yeah.
Usually if you invite touch, people are like, okay, I'm ready.
Now this is interesting. There's even more tensegrity here now.
Yes,
like
they're
I
pulling
feel like
apart.
I've built this thing like Buckminster Fuller had, where every part of the, structure is moving. And
what she's talking about is her feet are pulling away from her head, which creates a natural tension between the two different leg loops. So now the body's interfacing differently than when it was just relaxed.
And there's support on every angle.
Yes.
And every plane. So it really, I feel my three-dimensionality here more. Movement becomes very much like this three-dimensional.
Way more dynamic movement than you can get on the table without something that is allowing for that kind of suspension. As well as, it's called like a closed chain movement. Open chain is when your arms are just kind of in the air. Closed chain is when it's like held by 2 points and it's tracing a certain pattern.
And I can get into a little bit of a dynamic movement here. And there is support from my head.
Yeah, it's almost like a core strengthening move, yeah.
But the whole body is engaged in this movement. And there's no strain on any part of my body whatsoever. Actually none. I could do this. It feels like I could do like 100 of these.
It feels really good to watch actually, because you're actually keeping good alignment as opposed to just tugging or yanking on the head, and the symmetry between the legs communicating with the upper body. So it's rolling together, where people fall out of rhythm a lot if they don't have that level of support or that communication through the upper and lower bodies. Okay, so I want you to go and bunch this up around the neck because I'm really excited about this stretching because it felt so good on me. And you can keep the legs extended because we're going to do the same thing. That. Are you want the second leg loop or are you happy?
I'm happy.
Okay, perfect.
And
that's just extra and we can do whatever we want with that or just let it be. So let's get your hair unleashed. There we go. So yeah, so what I had Barbara do before is I'm just gonna do a little tractioning here, and she can.
So yummy.
Yeah, and she can play with nodding, which means she can bring her chin a little bit more into her chest.
And even this wants to happen. Yeah.
The spiral open up, and I can assist with that by just rocking with her motion.
And I'm opening my mouth, and now my shoulders.
Yeah. So Barbara's obviously an embodiment master, so she can just lead the session really. And the same way she's working with me, I'm like, I don't know, I might take over because I do that, and she's okay with it too. But when somebody is having an inspiration or an initiation, we want them to follow those impulses because they are leading their body to unwind in ways that we couldn't even imagine, right?
This is almost like a cross crawl movement. It's on the table, but it is definitely arising from some primitive reflex place, you know?
And I just want to point out that I'm with her in the motion and I'm getting just as much of a therapeutic experience in my body.
Yeah,
When-
it's like a kinesthetic.
Well, it's also because I'm doing like my version of like yoga with the swing because I'm really leaning in and tractioning
that
back
feels nice.
and
That
getting a
feels
great
nice.
stretch. So when we're working together like that, there's no separation between student and teacher or therapist and client because we're all benefiting. If ever as a practitioner I'm feeling tense or something is straining in my body, then I'm not doing it in a way that is helpful for either one of us. And that's really important to remember in terms of our translation. The energy we're giving off is informing the body we're working with. Right? So let's do this one too, where I just pull on one side.
That feels nice.
Yeah, and then you can turn your head that way and then back.
My eyes are even involved.
Yeah. And then back towards me, and then let the skin slide on the fabric as you look towards me.
Let this, okay.
Yeah, like really push into the fabric as you turn, and that's the tractioning.
Gosh, that feels really great.
Amazing, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a rich area too, vagus nerve.
My goodness. Yeah, just ask someone how they're feeling, and they'll usually go, "Oh, my neck," right?
Right.
What is holding in the neck?
Such a rich area. And it just feels so restorative.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm wanting to do is I want to be engaged but relaxed. So I'm pulling but not too hard, and I'm leaning back using my own body weight to create the experience. And just feeling for, oh yeah, that's it, that's enough for next side, doing several rounds if that feels helpful or necessary. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of doing an expedited version. If I was doing a session with someone, this would be like an hour of exploration. So what I want to do now, because I was so excited about what you were doing with me, is you can leave the leg loop around your neck or you can release it, but we're going to move the leg loops to the hips, both leg loops under the hips.
I think I'll leave it behind because it feels so good and supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to leave it there for a while.
Yeah, so
I'm going to put this under my hips, you said?
Both of them, please.
Okay, both.
Mm-hmm. And they can be bunched up for the first round.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, I usually let Barbara do whatever she wants, right? First of all, she's Barbara. But you know, she's so playful and intuitive, I don't have to give her as much instruction. Now, with anybody else, I would have walked them through how to get from one pose to another and do it nice and slow. But she's her own master. So I want you to do the same thing where you're just starting to explore the hips. And I mentioned that we were going to go over the spiral dynamics. I really love working with the two major hubs of the body. So neck and shoulders, lower back and hips, right? These are the hot spots, and it's amazing because as you can see, this is where the swing holds the body. So not only
so great.
not only do we get pressure to release the musculature, but we actually start to work with the structure, the skeletal structure, and I call this like my own chiropractor. And I'm going to come in and just do a little tractioning with her. She can stay where she is. I'm actually going to squat because that feels comfortable on my knees. And she's going to pull away from me just slightly. Yes.
Oh, that feels great.
Yes. And so, of course, I make sure that this doesn't slide off and I do a backflip. But, you know, you can start to feel how much tension is just right. And I can also play with pulling up versus pulling straight out.
So what I'm doing here is actually a few like pelvic lifts and drops, and that feels so good with the traction.
Yeah, and I'm kind of actually rocking from side to side a little bit now too, just kind of spontaneously. That's what my body wanted to do. So here we are.
Yeah.
And then I can also come up, like if my knees need a break, I can come into almost like a forward fold.
Do you want me to
either way
go in?
Yeah, either way.
Feeling like this wants to happen.
Yeah, great.
So now I'm adding gravity to my fluids, which is a whole other force that's working with my body now.
And I can come in and I'm holding her hip and the swing, and I'm just gonna give it a little nudge.
Yeah.
just working with her and tilting the pelvis and then balancing it out and seeing what that feels like. Again, I can feel her hip flexors, so I'm holding the swing and her hips so she doesn't come out too much.
And then my leg wanted to do this, and now I'm in the
Great.
psoas.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what happened was body wanted to
Mm-hmm.
move beyond.
Yeah. And I'll just suggest things. So now I'm going to say, try adding, bend this knee. Yeah. And then wrap this around the outside. And I want you to try straightening this leg. Wrap it first.
Oh, wrap it
and
first.
then straighten
it.
Yeah, and then add that upper body twist like I was doing.
Oh.
Yes, that's gorgeous. And it's pushing that hip flexor, that
That
left.
feels so
Yeah.
good.
And for me, what felt like it would be a good stretch is if I just counterbalance and see what it's like to push the hip and pull the arm. Some people might not like that. Other people
I
might be
actually
like,
love that.
yeah, might be like, oh yeah.
And there my body went more. Look at that.
Mhm.
So the support that you
Mhm.
gave me allowed my body to actually go
Mhm.
deeper into the twist.
Yeah.
I could feel that all the way down through my
Mhm.
body. Oh my god, that felt so good.
Yeah.
Now we have
So
to
let's,
do the other
yeah,
side.
so we're gonna always try and balance it out. We can remember what we did. So bending this knee.
We bent this
Oh,
one.
it's gonna stay
Yeah,
up.
and then we
nope.
wrapped this
Yeah.
one and it went up.
Yeah, and then
And then-
she's twisting away, so she just pushes her right hip flexor forward. Can you push this one up more?
This one up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oops. That's good.
Yeah. And then
Oh.
I like,
It feels so good.
yeah. So I like this angle, and she's using this arm, but I'm gonna take it.
Okay, yes.
And what I usually do is I'll just actually brace against my body sometimes and give a little push too, or traction.
There's that turn again.
Yeah.
More. Oh yes.
There we go.
That feels so good. So yeah, my body is really loving that.
Mm-hmm. It is such an incredible dynamic motion.
Oh my gosh, it's
That-
impossible
right.
to get that on the floor.
Well, think about what chiropractors are trying to do on the table, right? With a kind of deep twist to release the spine.
What's beautiful about
Yes.
this is I'm participating
Yes.
in it with you. You're not doing it to me.
That's
we
right.
are co-creating that
And
movement.
there's traction. So there's space while twisting,
right.
which the chiropractors are missing, and that's why the compression hurts. It can feel relieving when you're done, but the actual adjustments can actually feel so painful because it's kind of like friction, where
Yeah.
this is actually tractioning, opening, twisting, and allowing space to breathe into
Yeah.
those places.
I want to do that one more time.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
so,
go for it. On each side, or?
No, just this side again.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This side
This is different.
Is a different side.
Yeah, and you don't have this one wrapped, so that's
Okay.
going to be a different experience. So you want the knee on the outside.
The knee on the outside.
Let's get this one under.
Okay.
Oh, the other way though.
Oh.
Yep, and the knee on the outside. Yes, and then you can straighten. Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Look
Yeah.
at that. And then I can add another twist.
I can keep the table from
I
going
almost went
over.
out in the garden. In the trees.
Yeah.
Just like my ancestors hanging in the trees.
Just like my ancestors did. That's how it happened. They flew right off the table and then stayed in the forest.
Oh my gosh. There's a part of me that, like, it's inherent in our system to want to hang.
Okay.
It's amazing.
So I want to do some of these spiral dynamics with you. So you're going to bend this knee and
Yes.
bring it out in front.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep that one where it is. It can be higher or lower, which means the foot can slide towards the ceiling or not. And then I want you to show, this is what she was doing with me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play with the external and internal rotation.
That feels great.
And I'm keeping her foot really engaged, usually just pushing into my belly will do the trick. I can also pull away and do that, but what I'm doing is I'm letting the femur rotate in the socket.
Right.
So external and internal rotations, I can feel the internal has a little stickiness in there. And so then we can play with something like a little bit of dynamic
Yeah.
movement crossing
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And what's so great about this is it's effortless for me because like
And it's
the
effortless
swing
for
is
me.
holding her. Yeah.
It's actually effortless, but again, it's this tensegrity feeling of the body being in this dynamic play where everything feels so effortless.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
it's almost like this is the way our body is meant to work, to actually move.
Almost like if we were in water, we would have this kind of freedom.
We would have this
Yeah.
kind of freedom.
And this is the ether in which we're playing with. And now I'm gonna have her come out and bend the knee and feel that stretch off the side of the table.
God, that feels so
And so I do a lot of this work with my athletes where I'm just getting into, and I'll even like pin the foot back. So it just adds not too much, but just enough of a stretch that I can help to counter all of that tension that builds up in the hip flexor.
I feel that in the psoas, in the hip flexor, and even in my quad.
For sure in the quad.
Yeah.
That's a big stretch.
So all of those places you're getting that
Mhm.
one stretch.
Yeah, so I was speaking to that when I was on the table and was saying to her, look, I'm hitting the psoas and the quad and
Yeah,
all the connective tissue
that's right.
around the hip flexor. And obviously this is a really private area, so some people don't feel as comfortable with me working on them on the table, but in the swing, it just adds a little bit more safety and security. And I'm just doing a little bit, I'm not doing much. Just a little bit goes a long way here. Because she can decide how far she wants to go. As soon as I feel an edge, I pause. I don't push past the edges. So it's a different kind of stretching where it's not force, but it's allowing. It's like more of the feminine.
So I just want to add,
Mhm.
there's so much information coming into my system right now that I can feel it. Like I don't have a thought. My body is just processing
Yeah.
all of the information on a somatic level. So it's like there's a wisdom that, you know, is coming online.
And just even here, I'm gonna have her neutralize the hips before we do second side. And
That's great.
I love hands-on, and like I usually just put my hands exactly where the swing is meeting the body, and what I can see is like a tight spot, and that just gives it a little extra space. And I was tilting from side to side as well as doing like a little pulse. For whatever reason with Barbara's body, the pulse feels really good.
Yeah, and the pulse is actually still in my system. I can still feel it.
Yeah, and then I can come back here and
That feels great.
you get
That
the lower
feels
in
so
your body.
great.
And we're making all this up, just FYI, we're
We're
getting
playing.
in.
We're playing.
We're getting in
This
the
is our play
swing.
date.
Obviously we work, this is our play date. We work in the swing and we work with people quite a bit. We know the body and all its systems, so that allows us to inform the practice with some of our own inspiration. But the swing is really doing the work, and like Barbara was talking about, it's the intelligence of the body that we're listening to. And that usually quiets the mind, because the body intelligence is actually waking up and coming online.
Totally, yeah. And, you know, I can feel like I'm dropped into my parasympathetic. There's like a whole other intelligence that Emily talked about in the fluids that start, you know, that once you build that intelligence, the intelligence starts to drive itself. You know, that's the unfolding movement. The body starts to know exactly what it wants next. And like children, you know, they just move from one movement to another without even thinking about it. And we kind of lose that as we sit in our chairs and cars, and these habituated patterns take over.
It's just the repetition, the repetitive patterns. And so I'm just helping her, but like when I was doing it, my legs just go. So I'm a little bit of a wiggle worm. But you know, if my client likes the extra support, especially through some of those sticky spots, when the leg's all the way up here and it's transitioning, sometimes you can hear like clunk clunk as the joint is being lubricated and moving. So yeah, and I'm just working from the hip flexor down the leg, activating an internal spiral. External is when the toes turn out, and internal is when the toes turn in. And that's just a tight line on pretty much every human I've met so far. And just the gentle rocking, kneading motion
I
will
love
start
that.
to work with the fascia in a new way.
That feels so great.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can tell, I'm really dropped in, like even words are,
And
sort
the
of
more-
not coming.
Yeah, the more that she relaxes, the deeper the experience. So we want that. We want like engaged but relaxed. So she's not super active in these stretches, which is so nice for people who don't like to stretch, I have to tell you. They're like, you mean I'll lay on the table and you'll do it for me? I'm like, pretty much. I think the swing's gonna do it for you. But the good news is actually Barbara could do this without me, you know? You can just get on the table and wiggle around. I'm just gonna do that internal and external rotation here, making sure that the ankle is really safe. Sometimes I do like to flex the foot and press it into the belly to make sure that spiral is going all the way up into the femur, the top of the femur.
So all of these movements, are stretching, but they're also extremely restorative. Like I feel like I'm having a massage, a chiropractic adjustment,
She is.
and I'm also in kind of a somatic meditation where I'm following the sensations, deep sensations of everything Jen is doing, and then the touch adds a whole other level of receptivity. And so my body right now is just so happy and taking all of this in.
And for me as a practitioner, and what we want to share in terms of training people to do this, is it really feels like I could do this forever.
Yeah.
Like I'm working, but it isn't about so much force. And of course, doing a lot of deep tissue and sports medicine and all that. I mean, especially when I get these really big dudes, love you big dudes, but really I am working normally, working it. And this, because we're in a dynamic movement and we're in a deep stretch,
Right,
the body doesn't need as much to get results.
right.
And so the relief is there, and and the efficacy is even higher than just working on the table. So yeah, I'm loving this combination. And so,
And you can tell my breath is there, it's very available.
and it's so easy for me to move her, and so I'm gonna just have her wrap again when she's ready all the way to the edges. Yep. Oh wait, we wanna do this stretch. We don't wanna miss that quad, right? Because then we bent the knee.
Oh yeah, we bent
Uh-huh.
it, there
And
we
let
go.
it hang.
Now that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I love just hooking the foot, right? I hook the foot so it's a deeper quad. And again, I'm just totally relaxed and I'm just leaning into her. Depending on how tight someone is, I could even come down into elbows
yeah,
and just lean my body like that.
right,
But for me, it should be enjoyable for both people.
right.
I'm like the selfish massage therapist. I'm like, it's got to feel good for me, guys. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm going to do it for very long. All day, every day for 22 years, you learn how to make it feel good.
Well,
So,
then
yeah.
it's alive, it's like this
Mhm.
participation that I'm talking about. I'm not laying on the table and having something done to me.
That's right.
I'm actually engaged in everything you're doing, and it feels alive and fresh and new all the time.
Yeah,
And-
she's certainly not coming in to just take a nap.
No, I like working with
Yeah.
my body, and
Yeah.
I like, driving my body this way, like driving my body in an intelligent, sensitive, somatic
Yeah.
way where it's just not rote, but there's
Well-
actually intelligence operating here.
That's exactly it. I was going to say it's the
And now this,
awakening.
see how this kind of just wanted to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's all right. Just inspired by the thought, awakening the body intelligence feels really good. That's that aliveness we're looking for. It actually is about dropping into the body feeling it and being present with it in a playful way. This is not hard body boot camp, blah, 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 you know?
Well, you know, our body is an organism. It's a living, breathing organism, and it's meant to move. I mean, the reason we have all of this range of movement is because we're built this way. It's not like we're reinventing something.
Right. We would be way simpler, let me tell you. We could have come up with a much simpler complex if we weren't
So
meant to
now I'm
move.
getting like even a greater stretch of my neck.
Amazing.
So like my whole core area is just so free and liberated from that whole adjustment I just had. And this rocking feels good.
Yeah.
And again, I'm loving the dynamic tensegrity of this system and how everything is like so actively engaged.
So I've been wanting to use the knees on you, and I'm wondering if you could lift up a little bit
Sure.
more for me. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that feels so
Yeah.
good. You can
So-
even go more.
Yeah, so lift up a little bit more.
Just don't push me off the table.
No, you have plenty of room.
Okay,
Yes, there we go.
There we go.
Now, it's amazing.
Oh my god, that feels so amazing. I don't know what it looks like on
Yeah.
camera.
What's happening now?
But I think we have a tent.
Yeah.
Looks like a,
Well, no, the body is perfectly shaped in its sacred geometrics to fit together.
So when she's in one of these positions, the angle of my knees is supporting her lower back in such a way that it can relax even more. And
Right.
again, just gentle, I'm just kind of pushing into my feet and rocking.
yeah.
That can really reset the nervous system. And while I'm here, I'm in chillaxin arms, my head's hanging off, I'm in a bit of a back bend, and it feels really, really good on my body.
And I just want to say that my upper scapula are just spread in a way that feels so good. And my neck is stretching. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, give me your hands.
Yeah.
So check
Oh
this out.
wow, that's
right?
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I just, because it was very intuitive and available, I just could reach her hands, and pulling her towards me just slightly will lengthen the neck. Yeah, there. And now what I want you to try and do is see if it feels good to bring the legs together, like a plow pose, so you might have to unleash them.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transition, so toes towards your head.
Toes towards the
Yeah, she can bend the knees. And then I'm just gonna let my feet move here to her sacrum, and she can play with bent knees or straight legs or going up and down. Yeah, and she's holding on to the swing, which is great, but that can pop off or not. But plow is one of those super duper intense poses. And
This feels so good.
yeah, and just this little lift and push here I'm doing with my feet on the sacrum makes all the difference in the world. Seriously, because that part needs to lift, and that's the challenge of plow on the floor. And her neck is being supported again by the yellow leg loop,
It feels
which
great.
is a totally different experience.
Yeah, I feel safe. I feel trust
Yeah.
in this, you know, you could say awkward pose, but it actually doesn't feel awkward because I feel the support.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the support of the swing, the tensegrity that is dynamic. So I could, if it's too much, I can move back, and it allows me to actually pulse into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can feel the touch of Jen's support. So again, I'm in a relationship with my body where there's a number of things going on.
Mm-hmm. So I want you to try and bring your legs up, right? And then down towards me with straight legs, and then let this be across the bum. I'm gonna get out of the way. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
Across
And
the
then,
bum feels
Mhm.
really good.
and that's gonna counterbalance what you just did. So then you're gonna let yourself arch here. So this
Take
knee can
out
come
my
off. Yeah. I had this behind the heart and with the arch, and that felt amazing too. So it's possible to move what was around the neck
down to behind the heart.
Oh my god, this feels like the perfect thing to do after
After that, the
Such
counter
a great
pose.
stretch. And I can actually feel a little shakiness, like energy moving.
It's working, yeah.
It's like energy is moving through
Yes.
the system. Like
Yeah.
I've released
Uh-huh.
some deeper
Yeah.
surface charge, or
And she can tell me if this feels good or
it
not.
feels
but
really good.
yeah. She's like, it feels good.
Well,
Took her
I
a
love
minute to
touch.
think about that. Yeah.
I
no.
really do.
Her
And
body
when
responds well to the touch.
it's like touch is a support for me. It just is, and always has been.
And it just felt good. Like I can feel it before I do it. And oh yeah, that would feel good. Just
Yeah.
a little lengthening through here.
And I'm just gonna bring my
That's
arms
right.
up
That's right.
and
Beautiful.
just get another
That's it.
stretch.
And if the yellow leg loop was behind her heart, with her arms up in the air, she would even feel that more through, it would support the upper thoracic. So there's lots of variations that we can do here. And then I just gently let it in.
And that feels like the perfect closure. Like
Yeah.
we didn't even plan that.
Ta-da!
But that feels like the perfect closure for that.
Well, we really enjoyed
It
sharing
was
with
so
you
much fun.
this swing
So
table
much fun.
continuum blend of therapeutics, and I guarantee you there'll be more.
There will be more.
This is Jen Healy and Barbara Karlsen.
So much fun.
And we're so happy. Our bodies feel amazing. Come feel amazing with us.
Great.